So this is a quick one because I did finally finish The Mirror and the Light, the third in the series about Thomas Cromwell. I just checked Goodreads, and I actually started reading this book on September 4th and finished it last night, which was Halloween. And it felt like so much longer. I felt like I had been reading this book forever, which sounds kind of awful. It is a long book. It's almost 800 pages. But the middle of it dragged for me, and so it was hard for me to get through that middle part to the end. It starts really well, it ends relatively well, the middle part, so let's talk about it. So, this is the third book, like I said. The first book, Wolf Hall, I zipped through. I read it on a flight from San Francisco to New York and back for a writer's conference.
Sorry, I can't read that on Apple Watch.
I don't know why my watch decided it needed to talk to me just then. Sorry. And then Bring Up the Bodies, which covers basically Thomas Cromwell. I'm sorry for all the noise. There's just people like stomping around in this house, and I've talked about it before, but this house is built on a crawl space, so even just regular walking sounds really loud in here because it's hollow under the floors. Anyway, that's what happens when you have a house full of people for months on end. Okay. Wolf Hall, which is the start of Thomas Cromwell's career, covers like his rise in the service of Henry VIII. He starts out working for Cardinal Wolsey, and then moves on to work for Henry after the Cardinal's fall / death. And then the second book is The Fall of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell's contribution to that. And then this picks up with Anne Boleyn's execution and the rise of Jane Seymour as queen, and then her death, and Anne of Cleves coming in. And I like history, so I knew a lot going in, not specifically about Thomas Cromwell, but about the time period. So if you're planning to read this and you don't know history and you don't want it spoiled, even though it's 500 years old or something, just, I'll put a little spoiler thing or something. But basically, fun fact is that the day Thomas Cromwell was executed is the same day that Henry VIII married Catherine Howard. And if you know history, you know how that went. They weren't married even 2 years before Catherine Howard ended up losing her head because she was committing adultery with Thomas Culpeper. But anyway, this book, it covers a lot of ground, which is interesting because it actually doesn't cover a ton of time. I guess Anne Boleyn died in 1536, and Cromwell died in 1540, so it's about 4 years of time. The thing about this book for me was that it lingered on things it didn't necessarily need to. It lingered on the things that, to me, I guess, were not the most interesting things. There's a revolt. There's my crows. There was a revolt, and, that had to be put down. And then the negotiations to get Anne of Cleves over and, to find Henry a new wife and then settle on Anne of Cleves and get her over. All of that is covered, but it's just not terribly interesting. And then a lot of this book is Thomas Cromwell kind of having these flashbacks to his childhood, to his time in Italy, and all this stuff. And again, it's it contributes to his character, I guess, because it contributes to his state of mind, or I don't know, but I don't think we needed quite as many flashbacks as we got. So it's kind of padded out. The writing is beautiful as ever. I found myself skimming in places. And to be honest, the scene that stuck with me most happened around page 250, which is fairly early in a book that's 800 pages. So when you're writing a book, you want that impact to be consistent throughout the book so that people are constantly just like, wow. Or you want to build it and make like your impact towards the end of the book and be like, bam. And so for me, the fact that the most impactful scene came fairly early in the book is, I won't say the book went downhill from there, but it kind of plateaued out. It actually kind of dipped and then came back up. I would say this scene was like the one that will stick with me. And then I kind of got bored, and then around the 80% mark, things ramp up as the net kind of closes over Cromwell. I get the sense, basically, that, working for Henry VIII was a dangerous job. And particularly if you were good at what you did, eventually you were going to be targeted by other people who wanted to bring you down. And even Henry himself, if he saw you being successful, he was kind of, he was paranoid, and he kind of had this idea that you were maybe reaching higher than him or doing better than him, and he didn't like that. So your success was kind of your downfall, in a way. And this book makes much of Cromwell's, like, devotion to Wolsey, and, like, how, like, maybe some of what he did, it's complicated. He was a complicated man, or at least in this fiction he is. He's not just greedy or, ambitious. He's, he is generous to people, but, and I think, at least in Mantel's, like, vision, he means well, and he really is trying to do the best he can for the king. The king's just a very difficult person, which Henry VIII was. But I did want to read this one scene. So this is from the end of the part that really, to me, was like the part that will stick with me. Basically, Thomas Cromwell goes to visit Wolsey's illegitimate daughter, who has been put in a convent. And of course, at this time, all of the convents are slowly being, like, disbanded. The monasteries and the convents are, being taken back by the king, all their money and everything. And Cromwell is part of that. He was part of the Reformation movement. And still, because he feels this loyalty to Wolsey, he goes to see Dorothea. And she basically, like, I don't want to give anything away, but anyway, at this little line is what gets me. So, this little, like, thought, this little image is, like, my favorite thing in this book. It's on page 249, and it says, this is Cromwell thinking, right, obviously. My list of sins is so extensive that the recording angel has run out of tablets and sits in the corner with his quill blunted, wailing and ripping out his curls. And I just can picture that so clearly. And, like, I just love that image. And again, that's the thing that's going to stick with me. The whole scene that leads up to that. But, like, but it's just a shame that maybe there aren't more little tidbits like that throughout the book. It's a good book. It's just, it's long and it's drawn out. And especially, like, say, if you know where it's headed, where it ends, maybe there's just something where you're like, just get to it already, or build up. The building up to it is very and I mean, to be fair, the building up to it must have been subtle for Cromwell not to, glom on and be like, hang on, this is, unless he was just that sure of himself or that conceited or something. But, yeah, it's a good book. I'm glad I read it, obviously. Like, for me, Wolf Hall and then Bring Up the Bodies, and this one's down here. I mean, they just kind of, do you hear that? That's my cat. Just a minute, Crow Baby. Um, yeah, so like anything that starts out really, really well, it's hard to sustain or maintain like that level. I gotta let him in, or he's just not gonna. Okay, so now the cat's in here, so if I get distracted, it's because he's doing something he's not supposed to, which he does all the time. And I just now realized like my mic was in that whole shot earlier, so sorry. I'm an imperfect film person. For somebody with a film degree, my actual ability to film things is decidedly meager. I was a screenwriter. I know, like, filming's not my thing. Anyway, bottom line, it's a good book. It's maybe not great. Like I said, I found myself skimming stuff. The subtle build up to Cromwell's, downfall is subtle, which, like I said, it kind of probably had to be. But at the same time, it doesn't make for very exciting intrigue when he's just kind of sitting around, like, reminiscing a lot of the time, or, I just feel like there are sections that could have been shorter or tighter. I don't know. When writers get to a certain point, their books start to bloat because the editors don't want to touch it, or the writers don't want the editors to touch it, and they have enough clout to stop the editors from doing much to it. I say because I worked as an editor in publishing. And also sometimes it's a rush job. It's the manuscript comes in late, you want to turn it over quickly, so you don't do the level of editing that you would normally do, because the book's going to sell anyway. People are going to buy it regardless. You can fix the typos or whatever in, like, a second, printing, what we used to call the errata file. Because, I found a few places in here where I was like, oh, that's a mistake. It's either formatting wise or spelling or whatever. But it's publishing's. If you ever want to know more about, like, publishing in general, let me know. But yeah. So at some point you're like, oh well, they win all the awards, their books sell. Who the hell cares how, like, well edited it is or something? Readers do care. But if you're going to buy the book anyway, like, publishing only really cares that you're spending the money. They don't care that you're satisfied with the product. I shouldn't say that. Obviously, they take pride in their work. But they're a business first. And the artistry is second. It is. And that's just a fact. Sorry to say. That's just a fact. In order to pay your people and stay in business, you got to sell books. And so even if they're not great books, if they sell, you don't care. Whether it's because it's the name, whether it's because, the readers will devour, trash, and so then it doesn't matter if it's, literary or highbrow or whatever. Whatever, what you're really looking for is for books that will sell. And, they got me. I bought it, and in hardback, no less. Like, Wolf Hall I found at Half Price Books. Bought, like, the really thick paperback version, because I had heard of it, but I came late to it. It was, like, 2014 or 2015 before I picked it up and read it. And then Bring of the Bodies I also found at Half Price Books, but I found the hardback, and I bought that. And then this one I bought, like, right off of Amazon, I admit, because I haven't had a chance to go to our local bookstores lately. I miss bookstores. I miss bookstores. Where I live, things are starting to open again, but because I have some lung compromise issues, I'm not out shopping and doing things yet. That's, obviously personal choice on my part. Anyway, I hope everyone is staying well. I hope you're all reading. I'm going to finish Piranesi next. It's on my Kindle, and I'm about 80% done with it. It's going, much faster than this did. It's just that I was buddy reading this, so I was trying to finish it sooner rather than later. And then after Piranesi, I've got like a stack of possible things to read, stuff I haven't decided where I'm going next. Maybe I'll zip through some Enola Holmes. I've got a new Classroom of the Elite light novel. I still need to finish the Shades of Magic series. I've read the first two. I need to read the last one. That's sitting in a stack somewhere. So lots of stuff. Hopefully I'll finish at least something and have something to talk about soon. In the meantime, take care. If you've read this or any of the other ones, let me know what you think. If there are other books you think I should read. I've read some Philippa Gregory. I read Alison Weir. But if there are other things, other authors, other historical fiction that you think I should delve into, let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.